Hey YouTube, thanks for tuning in. 5 slot, 550 crawler motors, 12T, Holmes Hobby Crawlmaster Sport and Surpass Hobby crawler motor, both with 12T. I compared those really popular motors on the bench and indoor. That's the short version, the summary of the super long video, 2.5 hours testing those motors. And if you want to see the full version, you will find the link in the description. And in the full long version of the video, I compare those two 550 crawler motors, 5 slot, also to two normal 3 slot 540 motors, a super cheap 35T motor, and the Holmes Hobbies Crawlmaster Sport with 27T. So if you have time, check out the whole video, and if you wanna know and present it in a nutshell, my results and the short versions of the tests, check it out now. When I bought them, the price of both motors was 20 bucks. Of course, some coupons, different shipping, also depending where you live, this can differ a little bit. The Holmes Hobbies motor comes simply packed in a plastic bag, while the Surpass Hobby motor comes nicely packed in a box with foam, so securely packed, and also does come with wires and 3.5mm plugs. Here you see the Holmes Hobbies motor. Mine arrived with a bent tub, not a big deal. It's a sealed can motor, does only have one ball bearing and one bushing, but does have a fan inside, while the Surpass motor is rebuildable, has two ball bearings, front and back side. You can change the brushes if you want to, and you can change timing. It should come with timing 0, but we will see this was not the case. 1.5 and a little bit in forward direction. I checked timing on both motors and by reverse direction, checking the amp draw, and by checking 1.8 the RPMs 3800 in both directions, and the Surpass Hobby motor was way off, was retarded. I had to set the scale to about 9 to get timing 0, but the Holmes Hobbies motor was spot on, perfect. Forward and reverse, same speed, so timing 0. And I disassembled the Surpass Hobby motor. Can't say a lot, it looks okay inside, I'm not a professional. 2 large magnets. And a little bit of trim weight. Okay, and I tested the no-load amp draw of the motors. The Holmes Hobbies motor was running totally smooth and calm, so I didn't have to hold it by hand, between 1 and 13 volts. But much more consistent. There is nearly no up and down. The amp draw of the Surpass Hobby motor, therefore, more vibrations, was much more consistent, but it showed a lot more vibrations. Calm all the time. So in higher voltages I had to fix it with my hand. But there seem to be more vibrations than in the Holmes Hobbies motor that runs much calmer. And these are the results of those measurements. You will find all 4 motors I used here, and the Holmes Hobbies 550 motor is shown in the red line here, and the Surpass 550 motor in the blue line. You see the amp draw of the Surpass 550 5-slot crawler motor is much higher than it is in the Holmes Hobbies 550. Then I checked the amp draw and the RPMs and the maximum voltage. the motors could get with this setup. For the explanation of the setup,
1 volt,
see the long video. I checked both motors,
amps,
all 4 motors, and on 2 and on 3S batteries.
6,300 and 1 volt. It's difficult to adjust. Okay.
Therefore I used the heli tachometer,
1,000,
and this propeller was fixed with a pinion to the motors. And after those tests I checked the temperature.
71.9 degree
The Surpass hobby motor,
against 56, 51.
60 to 70 degrees Celsius, and rather hot,
66 degree.
Now the Holmes Hobbies 550 Crawlmaster Sport.
6 volt, 5,900, 7, 20.2 and 1 volt. One volt, 940, 0.1 amp.
The Holmes Hobbies on 3S.
6,426.4 amp. 1 volt, 900 and 1,000. It's extremely, it's much cooler than the Surpass motor.
The Holmes Hobbies motor stayed much cooler than the Surpass.
I don't have any problems to touch it. It's only barely warm. Wow. So
something in the 40th degree Celsius,
43.
of course.
I don't know if you can see it in the camera. 43 degree Celsius, of course. 45.
So quite a big difference in temperature of the motors.
43.
Big plus
42.
for the Holmes Hobbies motor.
Here it's a little bit warmer. 49 degrees Celsius.
And on this graph you can see the amp draw and the rounds per minute of the motors at different voltages. The y-axis on the right side shows the amp draw, the y-axis on the left side the rounds per minute, and on the x-axis the corresponding volts. And that's the Surpass 555 slot 12T motor on 2S. And let's compare it to the same motor on 3S, and what we see here is that the motor draws more amps on 2S than on 3S at the same voltage. The reason for this could be that I used only 1500 milliamp 3S battery with only 30C, and a rather new 4000 milliamp 2S battery with 25 or 30C. So a larger battery can deliver more. That's not only a cause of the C rating, but also of the amp hour rating of the battery. Let's check the Holmes Hobbies 550 motor. Here on 2S, the dotted line is the amp draw, the straight full line are the rounds per minute at the different voltages. And what we see, if we compare it here, 2S to 3S, the same thing. It seems, or it does draw more amps at the same voltage with the large 2S 4000 milliamp battery than probably the smaller 3S battery can deliver. Let's compare the 5-slot Holmes Hobbies motor to the 5-slot Surpass hobby motor. So here you can see this, the red and orange lines are the Holmes Hobbies motor, and the bluish lines are the Surpass hobby motor. The Surpass hobby motor draws more amps than the Holmes Hobbies motor at the same voltage, but the Holmes Hobbies motor does turn faster, does have higher RPM at the same voltage.
6.354.
Then I made pull tests with a scale for all motors on 2 and on 3S batteries. I made 6 tests on 2S LiPos with 2 different LiPos, and 6 tests on 3S LiPos with 2 different types of 3S LiPos. Some of the motors ran hot or started a little bit to smoke.
Degrees Celsius.
But not that bad. And on this graph, on this chart, you can see the results of the pull tests of all 4 motors. We will talk only about the 550 5-slot motors here. That's the Surpass hobby motor in blue and the Holmes Hobbies Crawlmaster Sport in red and orange. On the right y-axis you can see the amp draw, and on the left y-axis the kilograms the motors could pull, and on the left side of each motor's bars, those are the results of the pull tests in kilogram on 2 and on 3S, and on the right side with the black surrounding, the amp draw on 2S and on 3S. And each bar shows the mean of the 6 tests on 2S and on 3S. The error bar shows the standard error, and the X shows the highest most single value the motor drew or pulled on the 2S or 3S setup. And what you can see, that the Holmes Hobbies 550 Crawlmaster Sport pulled a lot more than the Surpass hobby crawler motor, but the amp draw was nearly the same. Quite a big surprise for me that there was such a big difference in pull force. For the run and startup tests I used a really Freeman kit chassis with stock 13 teeth pinion and additional weight, so that's all in all about 3.4 kilogram now, the weight of an average scale crawler. And I used a Hobbywing 1080 ESC. I set with a program card 0.4 initial startup force to the maximum, 16%, number 9, 0.5 maximum forward force to 4, 100%, 0.9 drag brake to 9, 100%, and 0.10 drag brake rate also to the highest level 9, and 11 neutral range to 1, 0.02 milliseconds, and 0.12 start mode punch to the highest level 9, level 9. And I used my FlySky Noble for those tests. And then I tested the startup behavior by simply counting the trim steps till the truck or car or chassis started to roll and till it stopped again. Here the Surpass hobby motor on a flat surface, and here the Holmes Hobbies Crawlmaster 550 on a flat surface.
18, 20, 22, 24.
The Surpass hobby was clearly best in this discipline.
30, 32, stops at 28. 18, 20, 24, 28, 30, 32, runs at 30, stops at 28.
And after a flat surface,
8,
I let the
10,
cars climb a small step. And
2, 4,
the 550s
6, 8,
didn't really need more
10,
steps to do the small
8.
step than on the flat surface. Here the Surpass hobby motor And
20.
again, the Holmes Hobbies 550
32.
needs quite a lot of more steps than the Surpass hobby motor.
30. 32. 2, 4, 6,
And
8,
finally,
10.
I let the cars do a 45-degree incline. I let them climb this 100% incline, and again
12,
counted the trim steps the motor
14,
needed to
16,
bring the car up,
18,
and
20,
the steps till it stopped again when
22,
rolling
24,
on the incline.
28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, 46, 46.
The Surpass hobby motor was also best in this discipline.
44, 42, 40, 38, 2, 4, 6, 8.
Surpass hobby 550 again on 45
10,
degree.
12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 38, nearly, 40, 42, 44, 46, 48, 50, 48, 46, 44, 42, 40, 38, still going, 36, 34.
And now the
30,
Holmes Hobbies
32.
Crawlmaster Sport on a 45 degree incline.
Starts to climb with 32 and continues to climb 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, 58, starts to climb with 58,
But again, the Surpass
continues
hobby
to climb
motor
with 56 and 54,
was better.
52, 50. $32. 40, 44, 50, 52, 58, starts to climb with 58, 56, 54, 52, still climbs, 50, 48, 46.
And here you can see the results of all 4 motors tested in those startup tests, and you see that the Surpass 550 12T was clearly the best in all disciplines here, and the 550 motors were better than the 540 motors. I tested the drag brake force of the different motors with ESC Hobbywing 1080 100% drag brake, and without ESC motor wires disconnected and shortcut, as you can see here. So that's the maximum drag brake force the motor can deliver. That's the Surpass 5-slot 550, and it's going down the 100% incline slowly. The Holmes Hobbies 5-slot 550 12T also will not stop on the incline, go down slowly, but significantly slower than the Surpass 555 slot. So the Holmes has a stronger drag brake than the Surpass 550. But 3-slot motors do have a stronger drag brake than 5-slot motors. This you can see here now. The super cheap China 540 35T stood still on the 45-degree incline. The Holmes 540 27T stood still after a push, it rolled, and the 550 motor's 5-slot rolled down slowly the 45-degree. And now the drag brake tests with radio and Hobbywing 1080 ESC 100% drag brake. See, 100% drag brake on
Drag brake.
the Hobbywing 1080.
Drag brake 100%.
Surpass 5-slot 550.
Does not stop, but is easy to stop with a little bit of
Goes
throttle.
down slowly. Will not stop.
This is full drag brake. Surpass 555 slot. Drag brake. Does not stop,
The Holmes 555 slot
and I can't stop it.
also is not able to stop the car. Will go down slowly, significantly slower as the Surpass 550.
Drag brake. And with a little bit of throttle stop is possible, but without throttle not.
And here now a comparison of all 4 motors. 3-slot 540 have stronger drag brakes than the 5-slot 550 motors. And now some very short indoor running performance tests. The Hobbywing 1080 is set to startup force 1 here and start with the Surpass Hobby 550 crawler motor 5-slot 12T.
And this is minimum speed.
Can go very, very slow.
Cheap China tires.
So for sure not a bad choice for the price.
45-degree incline. Slow and far.
However, in this category, if you want to call it category, the Holmes Hobbies Crawlmaster Sport 550 5-slot 12T, in my opinion, clearly outperforms the Surpass Hobby 550 5-slot 12T motor.
Drag brake. Does not stop. And I can't stop it.
Stronger drag brake than the Surpass 550. However,
Start no
Great
problem.
brake.
And extremely smooth climbing is possible.
However, drag brake is better in the 3-slot motors, the 540 motors. And now my personal conclusions, impressions, final judgment. After all this testing and checking, I made some categories and give it to one of the two 550 5-slot crawler motors. First, price availability goes in my opinion clearly to the Surpass Hobby motor. at least for people outside of the United States. You can get it cheaper, but it's also much easier available for anyone. You can buy it on those China shops such as Banggood, AliExpress, on eBay, while the Holmes Hobbies motors are quite hard to get outside of the United States, and they are also always out of stock. Packing also goes clearly to the Surpass hobby motor, comes in a nice little box with foam secured, and the Holmes Hobbies motor simply comes in a plastic bag and not more, and it also arrived with a bent solder tab. Build quality is a hard one, because we cannot take a look inside of the Holmes Hobbies motor, a sealed can motor, but I also give it to the Surpass hobby motor. It's shinier and it seems to be nicer built. It has 2 ball bearings, while the Holmes Hobbies motor does only come with 1 ball bearing. And this leads to the next category, adjustability maintenance. This also goes clearly to the Surpass hobby motor in my opinion, because you can adjust timing, you can change the motor brushes, you can open the motor if you want. However, a big minus is that the timing, you can change it, but the timing was way off in the Surpass hobby motor, while the timing in the Holmes Hobbies motor was on spot. Next category, amp draw, what is also related to runtime. I didn't check the runtime, but I measured the amp draw, and this goes clearly to the Holmes Hobbies motor. It nearly always drew less amps than the Surpass hobby motor, and therefore, of course, it will run longer. But the constancy of amp draw goes again to the Surpass hobby motor. This was rather strange for me, but the Surpass hobby motor in the no-load tests, it was easy to read the amp it was drawing, while the Holmes Hobbies motor always had a up and down, up and down. The RPMs, rounds per minute, go clearly to the Holmes Hobbies motor. Temperature, clear winner again, Holmes Hobbies motor. It stays much cooler than the Surpass Hobbies motor because of the fan inside, probably. Vibrations, next, also clear winner, Holmes Hobbies motor. It runs much calmer. You can run it on your bench without fixing it with your hands, while the Surpass hobby motor shows much more vibrations. Power, clearest winner, Holmes Hobbies motor. The Holmes Hobbies 550 Crawlmaster Sport is much stronger than the Surpass hobby motor. The startup response, however, this category has been won by the Surpass hobby motor, so it started earlier with fewer clicks of the trim button than the Holmes Hobbies motor. Drag brake, clearly won by the Holmes Hobbies motor. The Surpass Hobbies motor showed a much weaker drag brake force. However, the 3-slot motors are better than the 5-slot motors tested here. And smoothness of running has also been won clearly by the Holmes Hobbies motor. That's only my personal impression when I ran it indoors on a 45-degree incline and on a smooth surface, but the response and the smoothness, I give it clearly to the Holmes motor. So, all in all, if you check this list, if you are keen on good running performance, you will for sure choose the Holmes Hobbies 550 Crawlmaster Sport 12T. But if it's on availability and if you want to tinker and to change some settings and to service your motor, maybe you'd choose the Surpass Hobby 550 12T crawler motor. That's it in a nutshell. If you want to see the full version of this video with more detailed explanations, please check out the link in the description for the 2.5 hours video. And I hope to see you soon, maybe with tests of 540 5-slot crawler motors. I do have the Holmes Hobbies Crawlmaster Sport 540 with 20 and 16T, super cheap. The Surpass Hobby crawler motors 540 5-slot, super cheap. And the very new Surpass Plus or Rocket crawler motors also with 16 and 20T. So thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next video. I'll be back.